Oh, got Nat?
Got that son of a bitch. It's going to be a good day.
His last podcast. All right, let's do the damn thing.
I will. Right now.
Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Master Debate with Quaid. I am your host, Quaid McDade. I'm joined once again by the same two knuckleheads, Nick and Adam. Adam is coming off of a win. We're going to get to hear from him here in a moment. Nick is coming off of a loss. We don't care about hearing from him. I would like to remind you all to check us out on iTunes, Stitcher, or Spotify. Also, check out our brand new website. You can find us at kellydigitalpodcast.com. Adam, how you doing, buddy? And how does it feel coming off of yet another victory?
This feeling is something I have pretty often, so I'm getting used to it. You know, I act like I've been here before. You know, I'm not going to do the touchdown dance every time. You know, I'll just hand the ball to the ref, and we'll go back to, you know, grinding, keeping these wins up.
Adam, is it a feeling that you think you could get tired of anytime soon?
You never get tired of winning. Just listen to our president.
Nick, speaking of president, how you doing, buddy?
You know, I'm doing good. It took me a while to get over the loss, but I managed. I did. I managed. But yeah, you know, I'm cracked open a fine bottle of wine. The wife called it white trash hooch, and I just think she's a bit judgmental.
What is it?
I agree with her.
Well, it is Barefoot Pinot Noir. You get this yourself for about $6.50 for a bottle.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
It is white hooch.
It's not boxer wine.
It's Pinot Noir. It's not white trash if it's Pinot Noir.
Yeah, it's got a fancy name to it.
Yeah.
Jump into the business at hand here, boys. Tonight we're going to discuss the top 10 musical acts or bands or groups of our lifetime. So we're basically talking about any musical act that was relevant in the 80s, 90s, or 2000s. And when digging into this, I kind of realized how many there are that could be put on these lists. We narrowed it down to very few. There's certainly going to be some when you guys are listening that people are like, oh man, how'd you forget this one? How'd you forget that one? Let us know if we forgot somebody that you really think should be on the list. With that being said, there's a couple that I was surprised didn't make a list, and we'll talk about that at some point here. So, Adam, since you are the winner, go ahead and tell us your 10 in no particular order.
All right, no particular order. I have Radiohead, Sublime, Alanis Morissette, Pearl Jam, Foo Fighters, Green Day, Bush, The Smashing Pumpkins, Nirvana, and Metallica.
Real quick before Nick introduces his 10, I want to say the one main stipulation we had here was no rap artist. We're going to do a separate episode of the rap artists, so there are no rap artists here. Nick, go ahead. Give us your 10.
All right. I got Ed Sheeran, Guns N' Roses, Motley Crue, Taylor Swift, Kid Rock and the Twisted Trucker Band, Brown Trucker Band, Nickelback, Nirvana. I plan on arguing Nickelback too. Prince and the Revolution, the Smashing Pumpkins, and the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Okay, so out of those lists, we did have two matches, which isn't bad. I'm surprised that there weren't more, which is good. Leaves more room for debate. So the two matches that we had tonight were Nirvana and Smashing Pumpkins. Adam, I'm going to ask you first. Just say a few things about each Nirvana and Smashing Pumpkins. What was your thought process? Why you put them on the list? And then we'll have give Nick an opportunity to do the same. What we're going to do is just basically slide them through, put them in the automatic 5 list, which is going to turn it into a top 7 list, which is fine. Adam?
Okay, so Nirvana, essentially, they were the ones who they revolutionized music in a sense. There was a lot of big hair bands, a lot of different types of 80s music. And then when they came along, they started the whole grunge fad, essentially. But really, all these, even modern bands, have kind of gone off of the Nirvana, what they've led into. Smashing Pumpkins, they're just a good band. I mean, they were around the same time, but I knew Nick would like that one because he loves the Smashing Pumpkins. And I do agree that, I mean, some of those albums are just classic. So that's why I picked those two. I mean, Nirvana has some big hits. I mean, they've sold like 75 million albums. So that's pretty huge. Smashing Pumpkins around 30. So that's a lot of listeners for those two.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Nirvana could almost make the list off their Unplugged album alone. And then when you look at like Nevermind and In Utero, I mean, both albums are classics. Obviously, they didn't make much more after that because somebody decided they wanted to taste the shotgun shell. But they had quality, not quantity. As far as the Smashing Pumpkins go, I feel they had both quantity and quality. They've been around for 30 years now. They just celebrated their anniversary. And I think every album that they made, for the most part, had at least a couple solid hits on it, if not just full-on solid album.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting that, like, for you on your list, you had Nirvana and the Foo Fighters both on of 10, which, is obviously Dave Grohl heavily involved in both of those. It kind of speaks to the genius that he is in the musical realm. Now, we'll decide whether or not Foo Fighters have any place on this list, but even just the fact that they're in the conversation kind of says a lot about Nirvana and the all-star lineup that they were, back in the day.
Yeah, for sure. We'll get the Foo Fighters at some point, I'm sure. I hate to argue too much right now.
Yeah, I'm just simply, basing that more on Nirvana and what they were at the time and how good they were and how much they influenced. Obviously, they had influence on the Foo Fighters, but as you both touched on, Nirvana had a large influence on a lot of bands, whether it was grunge bands that came along or punk rock bands or even rock bands that came along afterwards. So we're gonna move on. There's a couple that I was real surprised didn't fall on either list. I think really the main reason is simply because the vast majority of bands, groups, singers that are out there, there's obviously more that we could say. I almost thought to myself, I could come up with my own list of 10 that wasn't on either one of your lists, and we could probably still have a good debate. The Rolling Stones, I thought, might make their way to one of your lists. I know they're older, but they were certainly relevant in our lifetime. I thought maybe Kiss would be something that that one of you talked about. And the one that I thought for certain would make at least one list was AC/DC.
Yeah, I didn't think about them.
I've given you my thoughts on AC/DC.
Go ahead.
Fast. I hate AC/DC. Every song they have sounds the exact same, and I don't like that sound.
Well, reasonable then. I can't really argue that.
Yeah.
All right, so let's jump into this. Adam, since you're coming off a win, it is your choice to punt, pass, or kick. Would you like to introduce your first one, or would you like to give Nick the opportunity?
I'll give Nick the opportunity.
Interesting strategy. He has zero confidence in you, Nick. Go ahead.
That's fine. I'm going to come out the gate swinging, going right for Quaid's heartstrings. And the guy I'm bringing to the table is the most versatile one on the list, on my list and on your list. And I'm talking about Kid Rock. This dude started out as a Detroit rapper. He came up around the same time as Insane Clown Posse and Esham, and he was in that same lane.
Is that a good thing?
Well, here's the thing. Yeah. I mean, to some people that's a great thing. But he was in that lane, and he moved a little bit more towards rock once he got to Devil Without a Cause, which was his real breakout album into the mainstream. And then by the time he started moving into like American Badass and moving forward with his career, it went from a rap rock to southern rock and country. When I worked at Eagle 107.5, there was a cluster of stations down there. There was the country station, the rock station, the pop station, and you would walk down the hall. There was even like the soft rock station. When the song, oh my gosh, what's the one he did with Werewolves of London? Damn it. All Summer Long, that's right. When that song came on, you would hear that song coming out of each station because it crossed every platform that radio has. I know, like, you're probably thinking Kid Rock, kind of comical, but legitimately, he has rose to the top and been at the top echelon of pretty much every genre of music that has existed in our lifetimes.
Adam?
Okay. I will go with Green Day. Okay, so Green Day is another one of these 90s bands. They may be one of the biggest ones as far as lasting power, and they're still relevant to this day. They had albums like Nimrod, Dookie, American Idiot. They sold tons of albums too, close to 90 million. They're just a very popular band that you want to talk about spread across a lot of different genres of people. I mean, everyone knows Green Day songs, and it's not just because, maybe they have rock songs, but maybe they have more pop culture type of songs, but everybody knows Green Day. And I would say that most people are probably a fan of a decent amount of their songs. And I think as far as Kid Rock goes, I mean, Devil Without a Cause was decent. That was good. That was a new type of album. He was like cutting edge at the time, kind of. He was kind of bringing that rock back into the grunge, But, I mean, his relevance now, I mean, the songs he has now, his relevance is on Twitter with supporting the president. It's about it.
I disagree. And I think I think when it comes to Green Day, you could listen to a song that was on, Nimrod or Dookie or whatever their shit album is that they have out now, and it all sounds the same. To whereas Kid Rock he's been the definition of evolving as an artist. He really has. I mean, he's gone through so many changes as an artist and touched on so many different styles of music that there's really nobody that could compare to that. When you get down to Green Day, they've had
no one.
They've had one good album. They had one good album with a couple good singles that have followed. But aside from Dookie, the rest of their work is Dookie.
I don't know about that. You're saying that Kid Rock. Guys. You're saying Kid Rock had, and I feel like you're just describing Kid Rock. He had one album that was a hit. The rest
I
of
think
it,
American Badass was a better album than Devil Without a Cause.
But I mean, you're saying, I mean, he has all these songs that, like, at least in the last 20 years, 15, I mean, they're singles. I mean, that's all he has is singles. He doesn't have any albums that are relevant. And I'm not saying, I mean, a lot of these bands that we have on our list are a little bit older, so they don't, it's hard to keep it going throughout the 30-year period. But I mean, Kid Rock, I mean, he's more of a joke than he is the greatest. Would you call him the greatest artist of all time or something?
No, I said the most versatile artist on our list.
I don't know. I mean, there's like maybe 2 songs, and that one song that you mentioned earlier. I mean, I hate that song just because, like you said, it played a lot. But just because songs play a lot doesn't necessarily mean they're good songs.
But that was a good song. It was a good song. It got played out, absolutely. But the fact is, Green Day got played on alternative rock stations. It touched one audience, and they only touched one audience their entire careers.
I don't know about that.
Kid Rock went from touching
boys to men.
He went from having a horrorcore rap following to,
which is like 30 people.
Well,
have you been to a gathering of juggalos?
I haven't.
There's more than 30 there.
For one thing, I'm surprised that ICP didn't make somebody's list tonight.
You said no rap.
Right. Oh, is that where it is? I wasn't aware. If I
wasn't aware.
Actually, I'm 100% certain. Kid Rock was somewhat influential in launching Eminem's rap career. They have some songs that they worked on together way back when Kid Rock was still in that wheelhouse.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I mean. He came from a really demented style of rap, too. I mean, if you look at, obviously, Insane Clown Posse, and then Esham with Nodus, that's just straight satanic shit. And then
which no one's ever heard of.
Eminem. What's that?
Which no one's ever heard of.
I agree.
Real hip-hop fans have. But and then you got Eminem that came out of that, too. And, like, they all are in a group of just really, wicked rappers of just horrible shit. And then for him to evolve into what he is today, to where he's a country singer singing love songs, that's a hell of a career arc. You don't see artists evolve. You still see artists going out there trying to be what they were back in '85. But Kid Rock has read the tea leaves, and he's embraced new styles that he enjoys. He's embraced a new type of fan base. He's grown up, and he's managing to stay relevant.
I mean, a lot of people grow up, but doesn't mean they're the best. I mean, if you went song for song, album for album throughout their careers, Green Day is way bigger than Kid Rock. I mean, Green Day sold like 85 million albums. That's like one of the highest of all time. I mean, when you're looking at most of these bands, you say they only hit the alternative people, but they couldn't have just hit the alternative people if they sold 85 million albums. And they were on music soundtracks. What's that?
They hit pop charts too. So that's pop stations.
I mean, they didn't go country like Kid Rock, but I mean, that's like on South Park whenever they make the Christian rock band just because it's got to be popular. I think that's what he's doing. He knows that he can tap into that country market and get that country money. But I mean, Kid Rock is, I wouldn't even think of Kid Rock in top 100 of all time, the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. I just don't think that he had a couple decent songs, but over the last 30 years, and your argument is that he's sustained this excellence? No way.
Okay, so let me have a moment here and try to put into words my thoughts here. Nick, I think you made a great point. The fact that Kid Rock is extremely versatile and has been extremely versatile and has evolved over time and continued to learn and change and grow as an artist and, cross several genres. Adam, Green Day is one of my favorite bands ever, really. I think a lot of kids our age that grew up, really in the 90s, that was born in the early 80s, mid 80s, it'd be hard to not be a fan of Green Day, at least to some extent. Green Day maybe not so much now, but at least back in that period, they really had almost a cult-like following. I don't know what the numbers are as far as how many albums they've sold, but I'm sure it's astronomical. My decision was based on a few different things. One of them was this comment. Nick played very well the word Dookie and said that other than that one album, the rest of them were Dookie, which was very well played. I also think that Nick, you did a great job of arguing not the fact that Kid Rock is one of the greatest of all time, but arguing for the fact that he has changed over time and has crossed over genres. And for those reasons, Nick, you win round one. I will tell you this. Green Day is, I go to a lot of, I have gone in my lifetime to a lot of concerts, a lot of festivals and whatnot, rock, punk rock, country, and a few rap shows. Green Day is on my short list of bands that I would still like to see that I have not. And I will tell you that in all the shows that I've seen, Kid Rock is way, way up top as far as best performances go. So if you're listening to this and you have not seen Kid Rock and you're even somewhat a fan, do yourselves a favor and go see him, because he will blow the doors off the place. It all started at Woodstock '99. You watch that performance on YouTube, you'll be hooked. A few years ago, he did like a $20 date night tour or something, and sold all his tickets for $20. So for all of those reasons, you kind of played Homer there. You knew that would get me in because I'm a big Kid Rock fan. Nick, you win round one.
Thank you. I feel as well.
Well, I'll say this about
taking down them liberal fucks over at Green Day.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I hate Green Day. I mean, I have my list because it's an obvious band. Like, they're a huge band, but I hate them. As far as
Dookie was a great album. After that,
I hated them even when they were popular. I saw them in concert, and it's not that they're not a good performance. I just don't like them. I don't know what it is.
Like them because it's so political. Like, they try to play the political.
No, it has nothing to do with that. I've hated them even since before they were ever political. I just don't like their music. I never liked any of their songs ever. Now, I put them on my list because there's a lot of people who do love them. You know, they still do. But I don't necessarily think their music goes with me.
Yeah, a huge kick in the balls to put them on your list because you know they should be on there, which they should. You know, they're a great popular band, very well known, and then to bring them up and hate their music and then actually lose to Rock, that's got to really chap.
Well, Kid Rock, on the other hand, I mean, he's had a couple songs. That's about it. I mean, that's my opinion of Kid Rock.
I believe this wholeheartedly. I think Kid Rock has one of the coolest voices of the generation. I mean that 100%.
I like the midget.
He does.
Yeah, he's no longer with us.
Yeah, well, I liked him. He was my favorite part of that. Josie, that was it. I couldn't remember his name.
3 foot tall with a 10-foot dick.
You'll see that. Do yourselves a favor tonight or tomorrow. YouTube Woodstock '99, Kid Rock. It's a phenomenal performance because that was right in the heyday of him breaking out. All right, round two. Adam, you get to introduce first for round two. What do you got?
Well, taking that big L right there, this is pretty tough on me. I'm going to go with Metallica. And I mean, of all the bands on my list, all the bands on Nick's list, Metallica is by far the biggest. They were a metal band that crossed over into the mainstream and have been relevant for 30 years, legitimately 30 years. People like almost worship this band. I mean, you think about some of the songs they have: Master of Puppets, Nothing Else Matters, Enter the Sandman, Fuel, One. I mean, they have monster hits. They've sold over 125 million albums. They basically were one. I mean, there are other bands that are metal or speed metal, whatever you want to call it. But they're the ones who have transitioned into, like, they took it like to the public, basically. The general public is aware of them. And this is a band that I saw in concert, and they were amazing. So that's another reason why I put them on my list, because they performed live very well.
Nick, what do you got?
Oh man, that's a tough one to go up against. I got two in my pocket right now that I'm debating. I can either go for the kill shot, because you know what, I want to go for the kill. I'm gonna put you down 2-0. And you want to talk about metal, and you want to talk about great bands that have really withstood the test of time.
Oh God.
I'm talking Motley motherfucking Crue. You say Metallica was great live? Fuck those guys. Motley Crue. Tommy Lee plays the fucking drums upside down. This band rocks the hardest. I've seen them 3 times live. I believe their greatest hits album was a double album. They're amazing. Shout at the Devil, SOS, freaking Don't Go Away Mad, Just Go Away. Like, every song they have is just a fucking party anthem. Drug, sex, rock and roll, Motley Crue.
Well, you didn't say you saw Metallica live, have you?
No, I don't prefer to waste my time.
Yeah, I saw Metallica, and I've seen Motley Crue, and Metallica's better, far better. Motley Crue, I even drove all the way to DC to watch Motley Crue live. So don't get me started on Motley Crue and how smart you are about them. Okay, sure, they have, I think, they have big hits, obviously, over the years, but they're more known for their, off the stage antics. Like Tommy Lee and Pamela Anderson's Sex Tape probably got more buys than their albums did.
Shit.
It's probably not even close.
Let's not forget Kid Rock was also married to Pamela Anderson. But go ahead.
Yeah. There's like a cesspool of STDs in yeah. But I mean, Metallica
wound.
Metallica, I always think, when you listen to some of their, like, the music, like the drum intros and stuff, and people use them on videos, like if you go on YouTube videos and you want to see, like, videos of, like, sports or something, and it's really get you amped up, they use Metallica. I mean, Mario Rivera, he was like the greatest closer of all time for the Yankees, came out to Enter the Sandman. I mean,
look, there's no arguing with Enter Sandman as being a great song. That is a great song. But the fact is, the majority of Metallica's career, in my opinion, is unlistenable. It's the same bullshit. It's all downstrokes, all fucking. He just sings like.
I don't know about that.
He has no actual voice. For Vince Neil, he could belt that shit out, man. That is a solid band through and through. Nikki Sixx, possibly the best bass player in rock music. Maybe. I
don't know, man. I feel like I'm not saying they're not a popular. Like, people do like them. I mean, I like them just fine. But we did it as almost more of a joke than anything else. I mean, it wasn't we were like worshippers of Motley Crue. It was more like, let's go, let's see some like 45, 50-year-old titties flopped out down to their belly buttons. It wasn't the music.
Stack the hits up. Enter Sandman, great song. You can counteract that with Shout at the Devil. Then when you get over to Metallica again, what's the next hit after Enter Sandman?
You could say one.
I already got SOS there. Master Puppets, okay. We'll throw that one out there. But then we got Smoking in the Boys' Room. Then we got Dr. Feelgood.
Nothing else matters. We're just going to name songs because I don't think that's a very good argument. Like, honestly, Metallica has, like, so many songs. And what's they had this really big metal following, and they went a little bit more mainstream, and the metal people didn't necessarily like that at the beginning. Like they felt like they were sellouts, but in reality, they exposed so many people to other bands like Tool or someone else that they've never, because they're like, oh, this, metal's not what I thought it was. And I think they did a lot to really change the way people look at like heavy, like metal rock music. I mean, they made it more mainstream.
They made them more mainstream. I mean, nobody's bumping Slayer.
What? People love Slayer.
All right, listen. I'm going to ask a couple, or at least one question here. First off, I have to say that Metallica and Motley Crue, in all seriousness, both are easily in my top 5 bands of all time. So this is very, very difficult for me because I'm trying not to be biased and I'm trying to actually listen to the arguments. It's super difficult when you're actually a fan of the band. So my question, I'm going to ask you each this. 20 or 30 years from now, which one of these bands would you want your children to listen to and why? Why the one you're choosing and not the other? Adam, you can go first.
Okay, first off, the music is like more wide-ranging for Metallica. You got fast, you have things that slow down. The music is so much better. Motley Crue is a hair band. They're a hair band. They're a 1980s hair band. They didn't evolve from that. That's all they are. Now, Metallica, they've had songs and hits in the 2000s. They've also had hits in the 80s. I mean, they've stretched a long range. And I wouldn't even let my kid listen to Motley Crue because it's so garbage.
Okay, Motley Crue had hits in the 2000s. Saints of Los Angeles was a massive hit and Motherfucker of the Year, also a big hit.
Oh yeah, you let your kid listen to Motherfucker of the Year, Nick.
I would also let my kids listen to Metallica for 2 reasons. One, because they'd listen to it and go, "This shit's garbage," and they'll never bother to listen to it again. And 2, because Motley Crue's too fucking rock and roll, and it's too fucking good. And they'll listen to them, and they might start doing drugs and bad things because fuck yeah, they rock.
That's terrible. That's a terrible argument.
Okay.
I feel like you just made a joke out of Quade's question.
Okay.
I would never do such a thing. His questions are so great that I love every time he asks one.
Now you're pissing me off. So this is very, very difficult for me. Honestly, it is. I have to base my decision off of the one thing. So first off, Metallica is, in my mind, amazing because, as you said, Adam, they've been around for so long. They've stood the test of time. They are the godfathers of, heavy metal. The downstrumming only is mind-boggling if you try to wrap your head around it and you listen to their music. Motley Crue is also the real deal. I don't know if anybody has ever read any of their books, but they have a couple out. One is called The Dirt. I forget the other one. The other one is written by Nikki Sixx. It's called The Heroin Diaries. And I've read them both. They're both very good reads. It's basically an inside look on their destructive lifestyle, and it is extremely entertaining.
Like how these guys still alive,
Right, exactly. And I think they're all clean and sober at this point, except for maybe oh shoot, what's the lead guitar player's name?
Oh fuck.
But anyhow,
I'm drawing a blank too.
Anyhow, how they're alive, I don't know. I think that Nick painted a good picture of Motley Crue as an entire band. Nikki Sixx is arguably one of the greatest bass players of all time, also one of the greatest songwriters of all time, at least in a lot of people's opinion. Vince Neil is one of the greatest men of all time. Tommy Lee is arguably the greatest drummer of all time. And somebody look up what's the guitar player's name? Somebody look it up. I don't know why I can't think of it. But anyhow, reason I'm going to have to give this one to Nick, which really hurts me to go against Metallica. I will say that I have seen Motley Crue also 3 or 4 times, and they are my favorite live act I've actually ever seen, I think. And I am very much so looking forward to seeing Metallica in State College in October. So super excited.
Yeah, they're my favorite live act of all time. Those were the best concerts I've been to. All three.
I saw them at least once with you, didn't I?
No.
No, I thought we went to Post Gazette one time or something.
Nah, that wasn't me.
Good. I would never do that with somebody like you anyhow.
I was way too cool to hang out with you. I was like, limousine riding to them concerts.
Yeah, I was not. I was on a party bus. Actually, that was the story. I went with Chun and a couple of his buddies, and one of them got arrested because he lost his cell phone up on the grassy knoll, and somebody found it, stole it, and tried to meet him and tried to get in a fight with him, and they got locked up in like the jail and got chained to the floor. Anyhow, that's a whole nother can of worms. So, Nick, you get a chance to introduce your next one.
All right, I'm going Nickelback. Look, here's the thing. Everyone says they hate Nickelback. I want to come right out and say that. They're considered one of the most hated bands in the world. But somebody's buying those fucking records. Every time they come out with a song, it soars to number 1 on the Billboard charts. If you look at the list of songs that they have. What's that?
Do they really? I mean, I'm just curious.
Oh, they're always up there. They're always up there. And if you look at the list of hits they have, it's actually a pretty solid lineup. I mean, when you look at like Rockstar, How You Remind Me, Photograph, Far Away. One of my favorite ones is Bad Girlfriend. That's a fucking good rock song there. But
Theory of a Dead Man, but go ahead.
What's that?
Also performed and sang by Theory of a Dead Man.
No, they might have did it, but that was originally a Nickelback song.
I disagree. But
you might be right. I'm thinking of Put It in Your Mouth or Something in Your Mouth. Yeah, Something in Your Mouth is what I'm thinking of. That's a good song.
Also,
but you know what? There would be no, and another thing with Nickelback is there would be no Theory of a Dead Man without Nickelback. Nickelback like started a whole new genre of rock. You had like Seether follow them, Darkest Days. There was a whole about a 7 to 10 year window where there were a lot of bands that were influenced by Nickelback that were heavy hitter bands on every rock station. And Nickelback was able to cross from rock to pop. They could hit both genres and really hit at a top level.
And Chad Kroeger also banged Avril Lavigne.
That is true. Yes, he married her and banged her.
Are they still married?
No, they just got divorced recently.
No, I was gonna say, poor girl.
What do you got to put up against Nickelback?
Oh God.
I know it's going to be tough. Put some thought into it.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like if you were making a list of top 10 worst bands of all time, Nickelback would be maybe top 2 or 1. But I mean, I'll just go with my favorite of all time, and I think it probably most people wouldn't agree with this, just because it's an old thing. But they have one. I mean, they've had multiple albums, and I'm a huge fan. But the one album alone is enough to beat Nickelback. I mean, and that's Bush. They had 16 Stone, Everything Zen, Machine Head, Come Down, Glycerine. I mean, you're talking about songs that were massive hits whenever they came out. The album was a huge hit. And they still play these songs like on alternative rock stations. And I was watching a thing whenever I think it was Woodstock as well. And it was just a cool. It just kind of shows how much things have changed. There was a concert they were playing, and it was during the day. It was like at Woodstock or whatever. And I mean, I know every band experienced like something pretty similar. I just think it would be really cool to be there for any band, really. But it looked like there was 500,000 people in the crowd, like going berserk. And I just think that currently, like Nickelback and like the 2000s rock, everything changed like in the 2000s. Like the 2000s, I didn't put any of those people who started in the 2000s on my list because they're a joke to me. I mean, they really are. And you said he revolutionized music or something for certain bands. I just don't agree with that. I think Nickelback, they had songs that they were popular for like a second, and then they became kind of the biggest joke. This is what I look at Nickelback, basically. It's like a huge joke. And the joke has lasted longer than their careers, in my opinion.
I don't know. Their careers went from the 90s to at least until 2010. And they, you talk about Bush. Bush, yes, if we're talking best album, 16 Stone stands up against some of the best in rock history. That is a great album. I'll give you that. But they were such a disappointment with the fact that they followed one of the best albums in rock history up with total garbage.
No, Razor Blade Suitcase.
Razor Blade Suitcase, it has a couple good songs. Mouth. I can't think of the other one. But it was only one other one. I mean, Razor Blade Suitcase had, 12 to 14 songs on it. 2 of them were listenable. Neither one of them were as good as anything on 16 Stone. And
I don't necessarily. I think Mouth is a big hit. I mean, I think it could have been it's as big of a hit as anything off of 16 Stone.
Because it was on the American Werewolf in Paris. Swallowed's the other one that I was thinking of.
Yeah. Another big hit, like just in rock history alone.
Yeah, I mean, they're great songs. Absolutely.
Nickelback doesn't have any songs like that.
Here's the thing, but they've managed to find their way to the top every time. Like I said, everybody out there wants to say they hate Nickelback, but for some reason, every time Nickelback drops an album, it's number one. Every time they drop a new single out, it's number one.
If you're basing that off of that, I would just pick Katy Perry, Britney Spears, Miley Cyrus. We'll just pick all the stupid people. That doesn't make them a good band just because every time that surprises me. I think we need to check the stats on that. I don't see Nickelback being top of the charts every time they put a song out. I can't see that at all.
See, Nick, you're saying that every time they drop a song or album, it goes straight to number one. I'm not saying you're wrong. I would be interested to see those numbers.
Me too, because I find that to be far-fetched.
Here's what I think. My decision is made. I think that, Adam, you made some great points about Bush, and I think that, Nick, you piggybacked off of Adam and also made some other great points for Bush. I also think, and I'm certain that I will take some heat for this because I always take heat for it when I say it, but I mean it wholeheartedly. I do sincerely believe that Nickelback has some of the greatest guitar riffs of our generation. I'm not saying anything more than that as far as their music and their songs, but they do, in all seriousness, have some badass guitar riffs in some of their songs. I went to I shouldn't say I went to a Nickelback concert. I went to a concert that Nickelback happened to be playing at. I will tell you, I think they were the headliner, I think, for Buck Cherry and 3 Days Grace or something like that. And the first half of their set, they played all the good guitar riff songs, and they were awesome. Honestly, they blew the doors off. And then they went into all their popular stuff and all their stuff that all the little teeny boppers wanted to hear, which is what has made them popular. And we left immediately because it was hard to handle. So, grand scheme of history judging them, which one is going to be more influential. Nick, I don't think your facts are probably straight. I disagree with you when you say they influenced bands like Seether. I don't think Seether would want to hear that. I think Theory of a Dead Man probably would want to hear that either. Adam, you win with your bush.
I have a great bush.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed talking about your bush tonight, Adam.
You know, that's fine. When it comes to Nickelback, I'm not really a fan, but I thought it would be fun to try to argue in their favor.
Do you guys? You guys
I gave it a go. I lost. I'll take that.
You guys agree or disagree strongly with me about the guitar riffs? I'm serious about that.
I think Nickelback has some decent songs here and there. I don't think they're a great band. Fun fact about Nickelback, though, when they were coming up, they played at the Robert Pickton Ranch, which if you know anything about Robert Pickton, Adam might because he's a serial killer buff. He was a Vancouver serial killer who had a pig farm, and he would ground his victims up and turn them into sausage and sell them to people.
Wow.
Nickelback obviously probably didn't know that he was playing they were playing at a serial killer's ranch, but they played there because he was like a dude that actually had a lot of money and still was a serial killer.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that story. I'd be more interested in the serial killer story than
it's a great story.
Playing there.
Yeah.
I think it's very interesting to find out now, weeks later, that Adam is a serial killer buff. The episode we did about best ways to hide a body, it kind of makes a lot more sense to me now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm well researched on that topic, unlike music or movies. I'm looking to see if any of their songs even hit #1 day.
Yeah, I might have been, puffing the numbers a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you win your argument based off of lies, based off of a house of lies.
they definitely. I mean, hell, they sold 50 million albums because I started looking to see.
Photograph only hit #2, and that has to be like their biggest song, right? Popular song, Photograph, maybe.
Yeah. In 2009, Billboard ranked them as the most successful rock group of the decade. Wish I would have known that little fact while I was arguing.
Yeah, but it kind of... Sorry.
Because look at their competition.
Yeah, exactly.
The rock game was not real solid.
Yeah, 2000 rock. I'm not saying there weren't bands out there making good music in the 2000s. There were, but they weren't pop. They didn't make it into pop music anymore.
Exactly.
Like they just got rid of that.
Yeah, there's a lot of good rock bands from the 2000s that I'm a big fan of, but they were not mainstream radio stations getting played. That's what Nickelback did for their success. They every time they'd put out an album, they'd have 2 or 3 radio singles that would skyrocket. Whether they went to #1 or whatever they went to, they went way up top and they stayed there for a long time because all the teenage girls they were sing-along songs. That's what it takes to be popular, sing-along songs and bang Avril Lavigne. All right, moving on. Nick, you get to bring up the next one. What do you got?
I'm bringing the Red Hot Chili Peppers to the table. This band's been around for a really, really long time, basically throughout our lives, like basically completely. And they've put out solid stuff all the way. It wasn't just like they had their heyday in 94 and have been living off of that. They had great shit in the early 90s, mid 90s, early 2000s, the 2010s. They always were there, which is something that you don't get from a lot of rock groups these days, or any musical group these days. I could like go through at least 3 decades of producing something that is relevant and popular and is actually good quality. So yeah, Chili Peppers.
All right, what do you got?
Chili Peppers. Let's see, we're getting down. We have a lot already in play. I will do Foo Fighters, and I'll tell you why. Because they started, obviously Dave Grohl was part of Nirvana, okay? And Kurt Cobain kills himself. Dave Grohl starts a new band. And to even make that band popular at all was impressive. But he made it like his songs. I'm not saying like they're as revolutionary from the Foo Fighters, but he took that and he has basically stayed completely 100% relevant throughout his entire career, even to the current, even till now. Basically, he's still touring. Still, people love that guy, and he has some of those sing-along type of songs, you know, My Hero and shit like that. But it's like I look at the Red Hot Chili Peppers and I hate them. I have two bands from from rock bands like that I absolutely hate, and it's Green Day and Red Hot Chili Peppers. And I'm not saying that they didn't have any music that wasn't popular. They had popular music. It just makes me hate people too because for liking them. But Foo Fighters, I mean, they are an act that have continued to produce. And I've kind of always felt like with Green Day a little bit, and definitely with Red Hot Chili Peppers, every song sounds the same. I mean, I feel like it's like every song they come out with is just the same song with different words. It just drives me nuts. That's why I hate them so bad.
Oh, I totally disagree. When you got Under the Bridge was an amazing song. It's basically the anthem of the 90s. And then Danny California has a completely different sound to it. Give It Away Now sounds nothing like any of the other stuff.
Oh, geez. You're just making me cringe listening to these titles. I mean, I know I'm probably in the minority with hating Red Hot Chili Peppers.
You are in the minority. They're an amazing band. They obviously were loved when they got to the Super Bowl to do the halftime show, and not to mention the fact that this band was able to cross over into acting. Flea was in Back to the Future 2. Back to the Future 2. And Anthony Kiedis, he was in Point Break.
So was
he played War Child.
I think their whole group was in Point Break, actually.
Which, you know, projects them immediately into #1 status. He was War Child's right-hand man. He was there when Bodie beat the shit out of him in one of the most iconic scenes in movie history. What did Dave Grohl do in movie history?
Well, he's not an actor, for one. He's a musician. It's not a Fruit Loop from San Francisco doing weird shit. But, okay, yeah. They were in Point Break, which makes them awesome. Okay, they're great actors, but their music's terrible.
So here's the deal.
Fuck you guys. That's what Quaid's gonna say.
Yeah, basically, yeah. We do a topic that has zero connection to Break. So I think turns out that Nick, you asshole, you put Red Hot Chili Peppers on your list for one reason and one reason only. You probably hate their music. You probably hate everything about them as a band. You only put them on there so you could talk about Point Break, and that pisses me Adam Union.
Oh, fuck.
Damn it.
And while I'm gone, you guys can talk about Point Break. Why don't I'll be back.
You know what's funny about that?
That's always funny about it. I'm still here, asshole.
What's funny about it is they are great actors. And I'll tell you why. Because they're a bunch of pussies. And for them to act like tough guys and beat up a guy like Keanu Reeves, no way, man. No one can beat up Johnny Utah unless you're a really good actor. You can play that. It's hard to pull that off.
They managed, and like obviously that just goes to show what types of artists they are. The fact that they were able to,
they're good actors. I'll give them that. They're really good actors. They were. I mean, honestly,
you don't like Under the Bridge? That's a great song.
God, I hate every one of their songs. Like if I hear that song, I just like if I was in the car with someone, they're driving down the highway, and they're like, "Oh, let's listen to Red Hot Chili Peppers, 80 miles an hour." I'd open the door and fling myself into traffic. That's how much I don't like them.
The majority of their songs have expired on me. Californication and Under the Bridge, still good in my eyes.
Well, they're like, I mean, I guess I never liked either one of them. Okay.
Yeah.
But then to not, and it wouldn't be like I hate them, at the beginning. I just wasn't a fan of them. But then they got so much play, Green Day and them. And it's like, oh my God. I feel like it's like, have I taken crazy pills? I feel like Will Ferrell and Zoolander. Like, what is going on in this world? But
quick question for our halftime show here. Nirvana is the band. Name your favorite Nirvana song.
Oh, I like Lake of Fire. It's probably my favorite.
You're right.
I like Rape Me too.
I bet you did.
Of course you do.
I think they're the biggest hit for them, like what really popped them off, and it was the video too. It Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Yeah,
like that video really propelled them, and like that was when MTV actually played music, and there was like a golden age then. I mean, really, there was with music in the early '90s, like from like the late '80s to like the mid '90s. It was like the golden age. Every band on my list is in that golden age because I don't look at music now, like bands now that are popular anyway, as good music. And I don't want to sound like that old fogey. Your music's terrible nowadays, kid. But I mean, I'm not saying there isn't good music now. Just like Quaid said, there is good music, but it just doesn't get any play at all, like none. So
now here's something interesting to think about. I've had this, debate, obviously off air with people over the years, and it's usually sitting around drinking some beers, listening to music. The age-old saying of, it's better to burn out than to fade away. That's what makes Nirvana so popular and so well-liked and blah, blah, blah. Which there might be something to that, but then Dave Grohl, stuck around for another 30 years and he's still popular. Do you think that if Nirvana would have stayed Nirvana, would they be popular and would we even be talking about them?
Yeah, I think so. And I'm not saying like you could never actually foresee what music they would have come out with or how they would have evolved, but just what they did from the transition from like hair metal, Motley Crue type bands, they pretty much destroyed that. I mean, I know that that's kind of come back, like the popularity of Motley Crue and others like that, Guns N' Roses, but it's not because of their new music. They play their old music and it just found a new audience basically, or people say, you know what, I do like them. I forgot that I like them. But at the time, Nirvana killed all that. I mean, when Nirvana came out, it was like a death nail into hair bands. And that was all of the 80s, like for the most part. So I think that we would still talk about them just because they changed music. They completely changed what happened in music history from that point on. So, I mean, I always think about these people who die, like young musicians, and they die. Like, what's that guy's name today? Post Malone. He didn't die, but he almost crashed they crashed his plane. And like him, like, yeah, sure, people would probably say, oh, he's so great. And they would have real fond memories of him. And that does happen when people die. But there are some people who, when they died, it was like, they would have been great. They weren't great because they died. Nirvana's one, Jimi Hendrix. I mean, there's a lot of them. But like, if that dude today died, no offense to him. But like, if he died, like, yeah, sure, people would, like, he's very popular now. But I mean, he's not Nirvana. You know what I mean? He's not Jimi Hendrix, and he never will be.
Dude, he's not Salt and Pepper.
He's not Salt and Pepper. TLC.
Yeah.
Well, Salt and Pepper sucked. So anyhow, Adam.
Exactly.
Adam, you get to introduce it. Let's see. We're sitting at 2 for Nick with Kid Rock and Motley Crue, and 2 for Adam with Bush and Foo Fighters. So this ultimately.
I'd also like to say Foo Fighters suck. Like, debate's over. I'm not going to win the point, but they suck. I can't stand the Foo Fighters. I've tried to like them. Tried to like them, but I hate them.
Is it because of like their like they went from like rock into like that mix. They got the radio play because they went pop pop
to
rock.
me, they're just so boring. The music is just boring.
Like All My Life, like that's pretty fast.
Boring song.
Boring for you.
Boring. Like I will say, Dave Grohl is one of the most likable people in the industry. Like every time I see him on something, I'm like, he seems like a cool guy. I'm going to give the Foo Fighters another chance.
Not your guy, huh?
It's not my thing.
I do agree as far as Dave Grohl goes, though, whether you like them musically or not, there's something about Dave Grohl that is super, super likable that you can't help but be drawn to him. Like if you see him in an interview or read an interview or something, he's got to be one of the coolest people, of all time.
Yeah. If you think about his experiences through life and his involvement with some of the biggest things, I mean, basically, Foo Fighters could have been like they're popular. They definitely have popular songs, but I mean that is just like he could just like live on. He could have just left Nirvana and never did anything and still have had this amazing rock star life. But he's kind of lived on this like 25-year basically vacation touring on another band, and like still popular. Like he is a very likable guy. So
that's crazy. All right, Adam, what you got for the final round of the night?
This is tough. Down to what I got, 4 left. Well, I'm going to go with Pearl Jam. Now, Pearl Jam, I'm not saying that we talk about longevity with a lot of these, and they did have some stuff in the early 2000s that kind of brought them to a new like crop of people, new generation of kids listen to them. But the album 10, I mean, and just some of their stuff from whenever they first came out, Jeremy, Even Flow, Black, Alive, Better Man, Daughter. I mean, that's another one where that's probably those early albums were probably the biggest. I mean, they're probably top 10 albums of rock history, and that's Pearl Jam, and they are along the lines of Nirvana. They're going into that garage grunge. That they're like the beginning of that. When hair bands died, people were obviously sick and tired of them. So they were Pearl Jam, Nirvana were the 2 biggest ones. So that's just pretty much the bottom line. So.
And to go up against that, I'm going to bring T Swift to the table.
Who?
Taylor Swift.
Isn't that a rapper?
Yeah. Taylor Swift started out as a country artist. Her self-titled album was great, front to back. That entire album was very good. I have no shame in saying I liked it. I liked it a lot. And actually, all of her country stuff was just hit after hit after hit. Like there was no drop off. She won CMA after CMA, decided she wanted to try something new, completely switched up the type of music that she does, and she's been winning Grammys and every other type of award she could win. She is in an age where it is basically impossible for an artist to go platinum because of music subscription services. She still manages to go platinum every time she drops an album. She is there is no way you could argue the fact that she is not the most popular singer that is in the game today. I don't see her slowing down, and I think when she does start to slow down, she'll probably get back in touch with her country roots, and she will once again rise to the top of that genre. I mean, there's just, ain't no stopping her now.
Well, you have to look at it like this. We're talking about bands and music and good music. And I'm not saying like Taylor Swift doesn't have catchy music, because she does. But it's pop music. Even when she was country, she was still pop country. So when you look at it, she's targeting 7 to 16-year-old girls for the most part. I'm not saying she obviously has some stuff. So I mean, she's a hit maker. She's like a Disney kid, basically. Like she's like Ariana Grande, Justin Bieber. She's like one of them. I mean, that's all. Like to me, that's all she is. She's just like she's maybe the best of them.
Yeah,
Arguably, some people like Justin Bieber.
They all want to be her. The fact is, she's the one that actually writes her own songs and has stood the test of time because she actually has talents. All these other artists that pop up, they pop up and they fade away. Taylor Swift was able to maintain because she is one with actual talent. You want to talk about good music? Yeah, Pearl Jam, as you know, the band is good, but the lead singer is fucking awful. Eddie Vedder, you can't understand a word out of the fucking dude's mouth. Yeah,
people loved it though.
You listen to Yellow Ledbetter, you can't. What's he saying? I want to see her on the porch.
They love that.
Those aren't words. They're not words.
Yeah,
they're sounds.
Let's
you know. You're calling me down. Fuck him. He sucks. Pearl Jam, they'd be a lot better if they actually got a singer. And you want to get into the grunge bands. Yeah, okay, you say she's one of these little pop stars like everyone else, but at least she's the top of the pop stars. They weren't even the top of the grunge game. It was a simple fact that they were the only ones that didn't get fucked up in the heroin. That's why they lasted the longest. Nirvana, you know, he had the shotgun incident. And then with Stone Temple Pilots, which were a much better band, they had, you know, their lead singer had issues with heroin too. And then their second singer had issues with a rope.
Yeah. So like,
what's that?
In terms of heroin epidemic, wasn't Alice in Chains? Doesn't that fall in that category too?
Were they grunge? Do they consider grunge?
I don't know. Maybe
those were the three big grunge bands: were Stone Temple Pilots, Nirvana, and Pearl Jam.
Okay, so here's my question. I'm going to ask you first, Adam. I'm not going to ask you why you think Pearl Jam should win, but I'm going to ask you why you think Taylor Swift should not win.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you why. Turn on whatever pop station you have locally and listen to the songs without knowing the title. And if her song is in there, one of those 10 songs, you couldn't tell her from any other song. I mean, that's the truth. Her songs do not set her apart. Like, maybe she wrote them, maybe the other people didn't. But as far as what she's producing, it's the same shit that all these other kids are producing. It really is. I mean, that's the truth. If you listen to pop top 40 music, that is the case. Taylor Swift or Ariana Grande or whoever they are, they all sound the same. They all have songs. They all sound identical. They're big hits. I will give you that. But they're selling them to like brainless teenagers, and they have catchy beats. So that's why she's popular. That's why she's like, you talk about her sales and how super popular she is, but she's no different than any of the rest of them. She has the biggest name out of all of them, maybe by a little bit. But that's why I think mine's better.
Okay. Nick, same question for you from opposite people. Meaning, don't tell me why Swizzle should win. Tell me why Pearl Jam should not win.
I mean, I got to get back to the Eddie Vedder thing. Eddie Vedder is the front man. He is the face of Pearl Jam, and he is not a good singer. He's just, you know, when you're performing a song, or when you're listening to a song, you want to relate to the lyrics. You can't relate to Pearl Jam lyrics because you can't understand the fucking word he says. He mumbles. It sounds like he has something in his mouth when he's trying to sing. Like I said, musically, yeah, they're a great band. But when it comes down to listening to a song, if you really want to get into the song, you can't, because you can't understand the word that Eddie Vedder is saying.
Okay, interesting. So I will say this much. I'm not a fan of Pearl Jam. with the exception of a few songs, maybe, I'm not a big fan of Pearl Jam. However, I can honestly say I like them a lot more than I like Taylor Swift. So this is kind of difficult because I'm not really a fan of either one of these, which makes it easier to listen to the arguments in all honesty. So, Nick, you made an interesting point in terms of the fact that Pearl Jam is not even at the top of the grunge list, let alone any other list, which is a very valid point. Adam, you made a very valid point about Taylor Swift. She is currently making stuff that sounds just like everybody else. I think I agree with it. I'm a little bit out of tune with a lot of pop music right now, but I think you're probably right, from what I know of it and how much of it I listen to. I will say this, and here's the biggest deciding factor for me. As I said, your comment about not even being number one on the grunge list, that is one big reason. And also, Taylor Swift, as you said, Nick, crossed over from country where she was having extreme success in the country genre, and then went to mainstream pop music, moved to New York City, and kind of took that by storm too. She has clothing lines and all kinds of other stuff in department stores like Target and Walmart across the country. She has not only created music that has become popular, she has created a brand for herself, and is probably arguably one of the maybe the most wealthy person in the music game right now within the last 10 years. So for all of those reasons and the points that you made, Nick, it pains me to say that you win with Taylor Swift, but you do win with T Swift.
Fuck yeah, I do. Yeah, that this entire go around here, I've been playing catch up to Adam. I'll get to the point where I tie him, and then he'll win the next week, and then I tie him, then he'll win the next week. I'll come up with your head next week.
I'll tell you,
our topic will be.
Yeah,
I'll tell you, I obviously keep track of who won the previous weeks. Can see who gets to go first, but I have tried to not keep track of the total wins and total losses because I don't want it to come into my decision making. I don't want to consciously think that I have to keep it somewhat even. And maybe it is close to even. It's not. I don't know. And honestly, I don't want to know. So don't tell me because I don't want to come into my decision making process. I do have a question. Well, first off, let's recap. We had two that you both agreed on, Nirvana and Smashing Pumpkins. We put them through. Nick had Kid Rock, Motley Crue, and Taylor Swift. Adam had Bush and the Foo Fighters. I want to ask you guys a question about one that did not make the list. I asked you earlier about AC/DC. Adam, said that he thought about AC/DC. Nick hates them. I'm curious, the same question about the Rolling Stones. Adam, you can go first. Did you put any thought on the Rolling Stones, or is there a reason that they didn't make the list?
I'll tell you what. Okay, Rolling Stones, Aerosmith, those are bands that I felt like had huge careers prior to us hitting the 80s, basically. So that's why I didn't put them in. They definitely have stayed relevant. I mean, Rolling Stones still perform to packed houses when they play. People still love them.
Yeah.
But I mean, in Aerosmith, they had like hit songs in the 90s that were like number one songs, So I mean, I guess you could justify it. So myself, though, I didn't put them in just because they had a little too much crossover into the previous decade. But based on our rules, you could have, and that's I stayed away from those because of that. But you could have.
Yeah, that makes sense. Nick, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, same thing. Rolling Stones, I mean, they were part of the original British invasion, so you're going all the way back to the 60s for that when they really came in and made their mark. Sure. As far as AC/DC, not a fan. I did consider Aerosmith mainly because of the Get a Grip album and the Armageddon soundtrack, because that was just a massive hit, and that album was a massive hit. The one that almost made my list, and I decided he made too much of an impact in the 70s, was Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Fantastic group all around. I mean, after Tom Petty died, myself, I put together a playlist on my phone to listen to, and
Okay.
got about 40 songs. Got about 40 songs in, and they were all hits.
Yeah, he does have tons of hits. I mean, really, he does.
Adam, did you put any thought into Tom Petty, or you just kind of got overlooked?
No, I didn't even put any thought into him at all. He is obviously someone who has stayed relevant for a long time too. You know, as far as coming out with new songs, people still buying them and being popular. You know, you get a lot of old bands where they're just kind of going off of what they've done when they were popular, which is fine too, because some of these bands that both of us had on there, they had like some of the best albums like of all time. So maybe in their little time window, maybe it was brief, but they had some of the best music. And I mean, Tom Petty was good. I saw him live too, right before he died. He was good. He was entertaining.
I think with Tom Petty, most people would agree that he has one of the most recognizable sounds in history, really. I mean, there's no disputing if you hear a Tom Petty song that you know for sure that it's a Tom Petty song. What about Nick? I'm going to ask you this one first. MJ, old Michael Jackson, the Kitty Toucher. Did you put any thought into that or no?
Yeah,
I think about a week.
I put thought into him. The main reason why I didn't use him was because when I was asking for clarification earlier in our group text about the rules, I used him as an example, and I just thought it'd be silly to throw him on the list then.
Yeah, like you're exposing your cards.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So he, I mean, he really obviously had a massive impact on music, and his biggest heyday. I mean, Jackson 5 was huge, but you know, Michael Jackson's heyday was 80s, 90s for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Another group I consider putting on, and not that I'm a big fan of them, but NSYNC was one that I gave consideration to, because I mean, they really had a lot of big hits in the 90s, and then that spawned the career of Justin Timberlake, and you know, and the monster that's become.
Justin Timberlake, I think, is arguably one of the most talented people of our generation. When you talk about acting, producing, singing, and performing, you know, he's right up there. Adam, do you put any thought into either one of them, NSYNC or Michael Jackson?
I kind of didn't do Michael Jackson for the same reason, because Nick, he was like our test subject for whether someone who kind of had a career and kind of continued a big career through the 80s, so they had it in the 70s and continued it, and we said he would qualify, but I was thinking, I don't really want to argue for that. Yeah, I mean, because I actually kind of thought Nick would put him on his list, because Nick loved Michael Jackson. I mean, he loves that guy, so it's pretty hard for Nick. I was surprised Nick didn't argue for Prince, like in any of his arguments.
Yeah,
I you had him on your list.
Prince would come out because Prince is obviously way up there in terms of, you know, one of the greats.
Well, I wanted the practice of arguing for a band that I really didn't care for, like Nickelback, and I thought if I could pull that one out of my ass, that would be pretty fun and interesting. And also Prince, when he changed his name to the symbol, his career got a little dicey. I mean, before that, he was great, but once he got to the symbol, you can't really pull too many hits off from that.
Yeah, he was a strange dude in general. What about Kiss? Nick, did you put any thought into Kiss? I personally don't like Kiss.
I fucking hate Kiss. Last time I saw Motley Crue, they opened for Kiss, and it was the most boring, corny piece of shit concert I've ever seen in my life. Fuck Kiss. So no.
Adam, did you put any thought into Kiss?
No, I didn't put any thought at all. They weren't even on my radar.
The only thing good about Kiss was the fact that they used God Gave Rock and Roll to You in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. That was it.
Really?
Yeah, that's the last song that they performed with Station and Death playing the bass. It's fucking badass.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this up. For you that are still listening, I do want to say this. This is important, and it's something that we're going to start doing starting this week is on our Facebook page, we're going to start posting a poll, and we're going to give you 2 to 3 options of some of the topics that we're discussing back and forth, and let you guys chime in and vote to see which topic you would like to hear us debate in the upcoming week. Hopefully, it'll give us a little bit of interaction from you guys and a little bit of feedback. So with all those things being said, Adam, you are once again a loser, and Nick, you are once again a winner. I am Quaid, your host. Adios, amigos.
All right.